Hello, and welcome to the 20th episode of Last Attempt, a World of Warcraft Guildcast. I'm your host, Squirrelthug, and joining me today again is our co-host, Templrivanho. How you doing?
Yo,
So, this week, patch 12.0.7, Revelations, is almost here. MDI Season 1 finals are happening right now, this weekend, and Microsoft's gaming division had a rough week in the news. There's a little bit of news from a really harsh memo from Asha Sharma, and Second Attempt continues to push through Mythic. Let's start off with our roundtable. What have you been up to this week in World of Warcraft, Templar?
unfortunately, it's another week where I haven't really been able to do much. Had to help my parents a couple times this week, and the most fun part is it was either Wednesday or Tuesday. The air conditioner or the main air conditioner in my apartment broke down, and I am trying to get it uh, either replaced or get the money back through their warranty. And it is taking quite a while. So right now it is. Let's see. Last time I checked, it's 83, and it's still 83 in the apartment. Um,
Oh no.
the good news is the old sort of cheapy air conditioning is working in the bedroom, so that's keeping me cool at night. But
Got like a small window unit?
yeah, um,
Nice.
whereas the one that broke down is this big honking portable unit because I thought I could. It would be better for being like on a third story apartment and everything, and I don't think it's really ever cooled like it should, but now it's doing nothing but blowing hot air, uh,
Oh,
even like hotter than what's outside. So if you hear like a box fan or kids outside playing, it's because I have a window open and just trying to keep the place cool.
oh man. And just contending with the summer already. I don't even think it's summer yet, but it's coming.
Yeah, the good news is that the spike in temperature here in Pittsburgh is going down. It was like in the 90s, I think, a couple
Yeah,
days
that's
ago.
hot.
Um, so, you know, everything I'm getting, I contacted them, warranty, they wanted to verify it was being paid, get the receipts, et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully within the week, maybe two, get everything squared
Ooh,
away.
2 weeks. No, hopefully the week. Hopefully the week we get that done.
Yeah.
That sounds brutal. I know if my AC, well, I've got a backup because I have a mobile home that I bought a while ago, like during COVID. Um, and so I don't live there anymore. I just live in this house. And so, but if the AC went out, like I would absolutely 100% jump right back over there because I still have
Yeah.
furniture over there, and I've got like a really huge window unit, and it cools like the whole thing down. Just takes a little bit of time, but yeah, no, I would, yeah, I feel you on that one. I've had other situations where I've had to like just deal with no AC, and oh, it's terrible. You
Hmm.
know, at those temperatures, a swamp cooler could probably help, but also like if you're already gonna get the other one fixed, you know, or warranty.
Right. Plus, I don't exactly want to be carrying up more than I have to with the herniated disc and knee and everything.
Oh
So,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, try to get somebody to deliver that, you know, get Amazon door delivery or something.
right, right.
Um, well, okay, so in this week in World of Warcraft, I have not really been up too much, same as yourself. I've just been busy with I work long shifts and I usually get a day off, but this week we were busy, so I didn't. And then it's an hour commute each way, so it just starts to wear down on the fifth day.
Yeah.
But you know, that's I like catch up on my podcast and stuff like during the drive, so it's not so bad. But yeah, it has caused me to be super tired after work, and like I haven't even logged on, I think half the week. But I did push some keys and I got a couple new um or like I leveled up a couple of the dungeons that I'm trying to get all 12s right now. I think Resilient 12s would be cool to have. Um and then I can kind of just like push up from there. But yeah, pugs are just I don't know. I have it's like 50-50. It's almost like a coin flip every time I do it. You know? It
Hmm.
doesn't lean in one way or the other, but it's like it's either going to go really well or it is a struggle the whole way through. And you know, because of the the void core system, it seems that people are much more willing to just push all the way to the end regardless because they're gonna get there. Like it's almost like they're there for that primarily, and like the like time in the key is secondary. You know,
Right, right. Which makes
which
sense,
I
especially
mean,
in
yeah,
this part of the season.
I'm totally okay with that. You know, because
Hmm.
I've got patience, and I'm not really. I thought I wanted to hit 3,400 before, but I've got some of them down enough. I could probably start pushing like 14s and stuff, but we don't have that many guildings like logging in anymore. Like we're kind of getting to that part of the season. So I don't know, pushing with pugs is kind of weird. Like it's it takes so long. I think I just don't have the time, you know, to I mean, we've got one of our friends, Pathran, who's been on the show a couple times. He's great and he pushes a lot, and he's like right under 3,400. So, you know, I think it would take me the rest of the season, you know, of me trying, and I don't know if I want to put that effort in. I kind of like just focusing on rating.
Right. Although people will be coming back, with the new patch and everything. So there is
Yep,
that.
that is this Tuesday. Yeah, so let's get into the first news item that we have. The MDI Season 1 finals are happening right now. And this is basically, you know, like the road to BlizzCon, right? So the championship is going to be there. Um, and I actually have not checked on how the teams are doing right now, but there was somebody had kind of pointed out that the teams that were, um, I guess, pass through from China like onto like the world's championship because that's what this is. It's a World's Cup, right? Um, they're I think they're ranked like fourth and then higher. You know, like the top three teams like did not go because I think they're all focusing on just staying in with rating and doing whatever. Like it's almost as if like they were saying something about the China teams not having like really any money in that. You know, I think some of the prize money and stuff is for cutting edge and those kinds of achievements, like raid achievements.
Mm,
So they people don't really expect they're kind of the underdogs basically, and they don't expect any of them to make it to BlizzCon, but they've performed very well in the past, and these are just speed runs. So there's not really I think there's like a different format that MDI typically takes, and this time around they chose speed runs, so it's a lot more straightforward, and they have put a really big sort of widespread ban on a certain type of tech, as they call it, for these competitions. And tech is usually just some sort of exploit that is allowed. Um, I have not really watched them before, and then generally, I always thought some of these exploits were the type of things that Blizzard typically like patches out in one way or another. But I mean, some of these things are being sent to Blizzard. Actually, all of them are being sent to Blizzard to be confirmed. That's actually part of the rules for competing in this. If there's some tech that you come up with, you can send it to them, and I think it's been like that from before. So these people are coming up with and thinking about these types of exploits, and they're getting confirmed by Blizzard that they're okay to use them in these speedruns, in these championships or whatever, which means they're basically okay with these things happening in the game in general on regular servers. So yeah, I just think that's really interesting that there's some of the but the widespread ban was on snapping. There's a certain thing that people have been able to do with NPCs and such, but any tech that involves snapping is just out, like straight up out. And I guess it's been used in some really high stakes um, maneuvers in the past, and I believe the crowd is kind of split on this one. Like some people are like, okay, that makes sense. That's kind of a cheap move or whatever. But other people, kind of argue that it's led to some like really intense moments. Especially in like the finals or the championships and such.
Yeah, as far as snapping is concerned, that's been in Mythic Dungeons or the MDI definitely since the beginning, and Mythic Dungeons as a whole also since the beginning. I mean, um, even if it's just accidental. I've mentioned it before, but the Toll de Gore BFA dungeon is a particularly nerve-wracking and just one of my most hated dungeons, simply because there were so many issues, especially with us paladins, accidentally either our shields going through the prisons, even though they shouldn't, or people um, uh, aggroing ads from the top that then snap to the bottom, or aggroing them from the bottom that snap to the top. That is a bug. Um, and for me, I'm on the side of don't allow snapping. One of the reasons being that simply um, not all classes can really deal with it, at least as far as tanking. One of the reasons you see a demon hunter or warrior is the simple. How do I put it? It's not just that they have the defensives, but they have the maneuverability to really um, go in and out through mobs and ads. Um,
Okay.
but the defensives as well, especially demon hunters and magic damage. But but I also think it makes it more interesting if it's not about getting every single mob to just follow you from the beginning of the dungeon and just killing them at the end of the dungeon, you know, and instead you're actually trying to map out how you should be doing it, as a dungeon. It's not just one. I don't know. It's not just like getting a fistful of rocks and then throwing them in the trash. Instead, you have to pick out each individual rock or a group of them. Take care of them and move through it.
Yeah, it's interesting because in typical keys, if people are familiar with like running those, unless you're a tank, everything that happens isn't really your problem. Outside of the mechanics that you should be doing for your own character as you stay with the group and, kill enemies as you are supposed to through a priority list, right? Casters first, interrupts, those are the mechanics that you're supposed to be doing. But overall, really, you're kind of just sticking with the tank. You're letting him make all of the conscious decisions as to like how the dungeon is going, how much more to pull. It's not really any DPS's job to pull any more than what you already have, right? That's like not a decision that, if you're playing correctly and you're playing with a pug, especially, and there's no communication, like, the assumption is just that the tank kind of drives it. And, it's interesting for these competitions that there are certain tanks that kind of rise above the rest, right? That might be like a really hard meta here because of not really. I mean, I imagine because they're teams, and so a lot more coordinated, right? But the tank is, especially at these high keys, necessary to pull off these maneuvers and these types of pulls and such. And plus these guys have they've been practicing this, and doing these speed runs and trying to get their times down and trying to and figuring out how they should do everything. So it's interesting, definitely interesting to watch and see these guys compete. I'm gonna try to watch it live at BlizzCon as long as it doesn't, as long as the competition doesn't overlap with anything else I want to see, because I know they have panels, and there's some of those that
Hmm.
I'd be very interested to see. I know that I could probably just watch them like later on, after. I'm sure I'll have access to the VODs or something, but still, I think it'd be cool for. I know that there's gonna be some of them I want to be there live. You know.
Yeah, you'll probably not just the panels. I always think that the PvP battles at BlizzCon are always really good too.
And
So
sometimes they have demos, right?
yeah, they do have demos every once in a while. And that's actually a good question because Mike, I'm wondering how much of the Last Titan or any of the like let's assume they announce something of the Last Titan before
Yeah,
BlizzCon.
like the starting
Um,
zone, right? Like
yeah,
they've done
like
that before.
yeah, but I'm just curious if they will do it this early. And when I say early, we'll probably have 12.1, before BlizzCon. That would be my guess. But we still traditionally would have two more patches.
But
So,
that's at this point only 12 months.
right. So I'm not sure, how they're going to weave that because what I'm thinking is they're going to show some parts of The Last Titan, but maybe not go too much into the story, assuming they want to, you know, presumably there's going to be something probably more explosive at the end of this expansion leading into Last Titan versus the War Within into Midnight. Um, so I'm just curious if they're going to focus, say, more on telling and showing people about, say, features rather than maybe story or like a sneak peek into some of the zones we're going to see. And this is just, my thinking, trying to
Like
think what
concept
they
art,
think.
like
Yeah.
I feel like that's a strong contender for maybe like the art panel is
hmm
maybe not finished product, but like the concept art stuff that they like to show off sometimes, so we get like little previews.
Oh yeah, definitely. And again, I'm just trying to think what they're thinking, just trying to
Correct,
imagine.
because what's their plan for dropping? Because okay, so we are sitting on like 6 month patch cycles right now, right? Like they're somewhere
hmm
around in that area, and we're getting pretty close to 12.1. Like you said, it's going to be right around BlizzCon. That means that if on average, if it works out and nothing extends any of the timelines here, the next basically when it launches or around the time it'll be launching will be around the time that BlizzCon is happening. And I don't imagine that anybody wants to be at BlizzCon instead of playing, right? You don't want to make that choice. That feels like a bad
Right.
choice to make, right? But so I feel like if it's in that area, then we're gonna get the Last Titan. It's obviously gonna be in the last quarter, right?
hmm
But how close to BlizzCon is it going to be? And they changed the date for it this year as well. So we'll we'll see if they're gonna wiggle the date on BlizzCon or if they're gonna maybe extend the last patch that we have. So yeah, interesting to see how the timelines line up on that, and that would mean like maybe it is very likely that we'll get one more BlizzCon guaranteed before the next expansion launches. So like that would be a really good place to put some of it. But I don't know. I don't know if a demo would really hit there, right? Like it'd probably be a lot better at this BlizzCon.
Right. And again, they might show new features because I think they have in the past where they've announced new features, but you were playing the same expansion that's
Yeah.
currently live. But then again, they've also done the opposite where they've had demos where it's the next expansion and it's, everything that's not live. So it just depends on the year, the timing, and of course, this
Remember
is
they did
still.
Keza. You could just go because it was isolated. It was its own like
Mhm.
starting zone type of experience. Gilneas, Death Knights. I think Death Knights was a anytime there's like a separate starting zone for like a new hero class or a race or something. It seems to be a really good candidate for um, for like being a demo. You know what I mean? But
Right.
we don't know if they're gonna have any of this. But that will probably go with an announcement, right? Like here's a new
Mhm.
class or like a new thing or a new hero class, and then they'll throw something out there for us.
And remember, this is still the first real, or not the first real. It is the first trilogy, or the first time they've had to, or really are trying to tie things up into a trilogy, or really have one expansion into another and it be both its own separate story as well as a continued story. So, you know, there's a lot of pieces that they have that we don't, and that they've been putting in or leaving out. So, it's a big question mark on to what we're going to see and when.
I feel like we have been if people are playing the game slow enough, you're doing the quest lines and you're kind of really enjoying the art and some of the RP that's happening in the raids, there's a lot of like really cinematic experiences that seems to have been that we've been delivered here in Midnight. And the War Within was kind of almost like a standard World of Warcraft expansion. I think they maybe mixed a couple things around with some other ideas and like pulled stuff out of that expansion and put them here in Midnight. Harndar, for example,
Hmm.
it's got a lot of things that kind of just like, oh, this definitely belonged in the War Within, you know. And so you can kind of see that in there, but the War Within almost felt like just another World of Warcraft expansion, and under either it being the second in the trilogy or because it's now under Microsoft. I'm not really sure what influences this, but Midnight does feel a little bit different in its storytelling and the way that it's approached a lot of things. Again, cinematic experiences. We got a lot of cool story in the Zolomon, specifically. That we got story and camera work and like these, your characters in the scene, these kind of cinematics in game that we're seeing throughout all the storylines. But I think whatever team was in charge of the Zolomon zone with the camera work in those, like absolutely superb. Like it felt like a modern game, right? Like World of Warcraft
Hmm.
hasn't really felt like a modern game in like these game in-game cutscenes. Like they're simple and we appreciate the tech. Definitely, it's really cool to see your own character there, especially with any like spell effects or anything or transmog or any toy effects or anything that you would have been like that showing or using. Like it's just used, the camera just pops up in game and it's all scripted, right? Like so it's really cool that they're able to show your character this way. But that Zolomon experience is really just stands above the rest. How do you feel about that with those experiences that we're kind of getting in the game, you know?
Oh, I definitely love them, and I agree. Like, I remember back, because technically I was a Wrath baby, so I didn't know
Same.
that in like BC and Classic we didn't really have these experiences. But I very much remember the first time that we had the Wrathgate
Oof,
um, cinematic and experience,
it's
and
amazing.
right, and this sort of feels, I would argue, sort of coming back to that, where something's feeling not just modern, but your, like you said, your characters like integrated in the story. Things are happening to you. You're not just some outsider, or your character model, or even the NPCs character models look um fake, or so low poly that it takes you out or something. So I definitely agree, and I think it's going in a good place. I just wish and hope that, with as we continue through this, things will start to get better, or even better more quickly, so that we get better graphics more quickly. Um, not not in the sense that it would take the aesthetic out of World of Warcraft, but we see maybe more updates to the human models of the older orc models again. Um, um,
Another sweeping character change would be good. I think it would
mhm.
be really cool to focus on more than one at a time. I feel like they
Yeah,
have the
yeah.
team and the resources and such, and we'll get to this in a minute. But when Asha Sharma had basically said, "You guys are spending too much and you need to make more money," to everyone, they specifically called out Activision Blizzard for like, except for you, but the
Yep,
rest of you,
yep.
you
I did
know.
see that.
So, so we're in a good position. We're making them money. So, they really, I imagine that they're going to be spending some resources on us and we really are going to get like these increased experiences and such in World of Warcraft and get these upgraded models. But it'd be cool to see. I don't know. I understand the cycle that they were going through, but that almost it feels like a cadence that they set in Cataclysm, you know. And it's like, dude, that was a long time ago. I think you guys can do like 4 or 5 at a time now.
Right, exactly.
And the Haranir have really cool hairstyles. Like if nothing else, adding the high level of customization that these newer models get. And granted, they've added like a few things to some of the older models and like given them more options here and there and such. And we've seen like uh, demon hunters right being able to change their eye color and uh, something else. There was some other thing, but small little cosmetic changes that we're getting like per race are or per class in that case. We're seeing those, so that's pretty cool that we're getting that. I just think that yeah, maybe a little bit more, and we can and spread those really cool upgrades for like the because I imagine the hair models just really have to be. I mean, even if you kind of drag it over, you really got to rework the whole thing. It's probably better to build those from scratch.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I wish they would even sort of open up to the community. Like, for example, it would be really cool if they couldn't update. I mean, realistically, they could never really upgrade every single armor set to like newer models. I mean, there's just a ton of different varied ones, but it would be really cool if they could even like open up contests or something that would um, allow people to send in their 3D models to help them update them. Um, even if it's just like belt models, because I think belt models and I want to say even like pants models are probably the most low detail, low poly ones
And
that
feet
are around. Feet too, yeah.
and bracers.
Bracers too.
Yeah, so there's a couple opportunities for something like that. I think that would be something. I feel like World of Warcraft is a big enough community to support something like that, especially with the idea of like the competition's going to get you, I don't know, subscription time or WoW Gold or tokens or something, right? But I really do think that the community would be more than willing to kind of like help out in that endeavor where it's like, hey, we can't make all these hair models and everything that you guys want, but if we put out this tool and this contest and such and then just like go through the submissions that they post on Reddit or something, over time, like there's just gonna be people like, hey, look at here's this one, and I don't know, these especially with like hair models and such. I know armor is like one thing and the cosmetics are another, but like it doesn't move. It's like a
Right.
single thing, right? Like so once you get it locked in, and like that's another piece that's like pretty easy, and there's a lot of people out there with talent who could easily do that. It's all about the time and management, budgeting and such that they have to deal with, which is why I don't have a ton now. But I mean, you see people do crazy stuff with The Sims. You see those people dedicate their lives to that and the customization. There's definitely people on the internet that'll do this.
Oh yeah. I mean, even just as an example, Legend of Zelda, like the reverse engineering projects, or Twilight Princess ones, where people do the HD texture models and stuff like that. I mean, that's still going on.
A community got together and finished the unfinished game of Knights of the Old Republic, the sequel, because the game files were on disk.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I vaguely remember
and
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and people were like, "Wait a minute, why is this game so short?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, they got rushed and then they pushed it out and then that was the end of it and they just walked away." And so the community came together, finished the voice lines, finished the art, finished everything. It took years, but they
Hmm.
did it and then they released it and it was for free and like that's the internet that we exist in. That's the internet today. That's what people do. They get
Right.
together and they finish or do things for the games that they love. Like that passion is there, and World of Warcraft fans like definitely have that passion.
Most certainly.
I imagine if they opened something like that, people would learn 3D modeling just to participate. You know,
Yeah, and plus, for us as maybe not World of Warcraft as much, because you, of course, can run this thing on a potato. But most of us probably do have still high-end graphics cards, I would imagine, because not only do we not only play World of Warcraft, but we play other games, and then there's some of us, myself included, who mostly just play World of Warcraft, but we want as high an FPS as we want. So we do have the graphics cards that we can use to run Blender and stuff on the high end. So, um, it's an opportunity that exists.
Yeah, definitely. And sort of looking forward for this next patch, our next news item. We are going over the blue post. It is the patch notes for the 12.0.7 Revelations patch, and it's hefty. There's a lot here, but it's a lot of it is just stuff that we've covered before. Basically, going to Val and Naigtal to Quad Leaders of the Void. I'm really excited about seeing Naigtal because I believe this is where the Sporefall raid is going to be. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, and it's I don't know, it's just I just really like the Sporagar type of zone, right? That we got first in BC. That was a lot of fun. We have the Omni. Were you gonna say something?
I was just going to say it's Spore Regard to Electric Boogaloo. So,
Yeah, all over again, right?
hmm
Um, yeah, I kind of wonder how it's going to compare to the size of that zone. Um, I imagine it's going to be at least half that, the kind of stuff that they were showing us. But we'll see on Tuesday, because I didn't check it out on the on the PTR. I don't even know if they were testing that zone or the other. But we also get the Omnium Folio. That one is really interesting. We don't have to one. It's already been explained that it's going to carry us all the way to the end of the expansion. So power increases are going to be coming. We should expect those in each patch going forward now. Um, and it's not on a gear slot. So that's probably the most exciting thing about the. How are you feeling about that not being on a gear slot and carrying like the little borrow power things we get each season, sort of like it just being the same one?
um, I would say definitely good. Not as much as maybe other people, especially, for example, yourself, because you don't have to I've never been an engineer really on any of my characters. Technically, I have one, but I've never done the tinkers for like the belts and stuff. And we
Yeah,
all know what happened with the disc belt. Um,
yeah. It's funny too because such a long time ago they kind of like moved some of those things around because the nitro boost used to be on boots. And
mhm.
some of the other effects used to be on boots as well, but they moved them to the belt, which I believe didn't have anything on them before. And I'm not really sure why they changed them around, but basically, I think a few different things got moved to the belt, and there's still a couple for the gloves, I believe, from like Northrend and Cataclysm. But just to, I don't know, like why would you? When they put it on something that, and I believe it only affected engineers, I just didn't understand why you would do that. I
It
was so offended.
Yeah, it was a really strange choice, and you know, it's just baffling. Um, it could even be just that one person had the good idea, started implementing it, and then they realized their mistake afterward. Who knows? But the one good thing about it is that people in raids and guilds, they won't be competing with each other for materials for, say, a legendary, at least at this moment, or otherwise a special item. They sort of fixed that during War Within with the legendary cloak, and it was more, you know, if you did raid and you did dungeons, you would get the power automatically. But still, it's nice that we'll still have the items we want to
Okay,
get.
Heart of Azeroth did that too, right?
Yeah, but the less we say about the Heart of Azeroth, the better. Um, the system really, it just didn't work out. One of the reasons being that they wanted the Legion legendaries without having the Legion legendaries. Um,
Okay.
it's difficult to explain, but it was the problem was it was not only overly convoluted, but whenever you would get, like, for example, shoulders were one of the slots that had the Azurite powers. Um, Depending on the shoulders you would get, they could have different Azurite powers despite them being the same shoulders.
Oh,
Um,
that's like Diablo. That's not cool.
yeah, and also the way they worked, you had like a choice of, say, you had a choice of choosing one out of three on the outer side, two, what was it? Two of them on the inner side, and then one on the center side. It just ended up being way overly complicated, way too much just adjustment, because you would then have to take your gear to get reforged and adjust the stats on it. And then there was the whole thing of trying to get as much Azurite as you can. And unlike in Legion, you couldn't um, slot in those different powers. Like I just mentioned to you, you had to
You had to
choose.
go to the chamber, right?
Mhm. But for, see, the Legion weapons, you had three artifacts that you can slot into the Legion weapon. And for example, on the um, uh, Truth Guard, the Paladin shield, you had a Holy slot, an Arcane slot, and I think the third one was Fire. Among those three slots, you can then choose which relic you were going to slot into it. Now, of course, some of them are better than others, but with the Azurite power system, there wasn't really that choice. It was, you get these three on this shoulder, and then the two on the inner and the one in the center. Or you could try to gamble and try to get it on the same shoulders, but they're like slightly different. And it just kept spiraling and spiraling until they had to do this massive rework, as well as introducing corruptions and the corruption weapon effects and everything. And then it just became a instead of going into this constant gambling slot machine, you were just um, going in, firing your lasers and just obliterating everything, which was fun, but you know, it wasn't really varied gameplay or anything.
Yeah, that's I hear a lot of people they really liked corruption. People think that it was a lot of fun. Um but I maybe just because it was following the disaster that was the Heart of Azeroth.
Yeah, it was pretty much that. And it was also the end of the season, the end of the expansion. You got, superpowers. I forget what they called it, the meme beam, which Azurite power that was. But that was like the best I know for prot paladins and I think other tanks as well. But was that in like Twilight Devastation, um, where it would just do this giant blast and just obliterate everything like in an instant? But yeah, it just got out of hand.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Um Next on the patch notes, we have a mention for the Rotmire, the NPC boss Rotmire, or actually, yes, I believe his name is Rotmire. Um, he's like a gladiator type of situation here. The If you went to Harnir or Harndar, there's like these little the spore people, and they have like this PvP arena that they have where they all fight each other and they do this stuff. So they're trying to get like a really good contender for their pit there. I don't think it's called the pit, and it just kind of got out of hand. And now they have this massive like spore monster, and it just looks like one of them, but with like a lot of doses of steroids.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just huge. But the gear that's going to drop from this player or from this boss in this raid is two pieces of gear for every gear type. So cloth, mail, leather, plate. There's gonna be two pieces for each, and then there are three um, gems or like jewelry. So I think it's like a ring and a trinket and maybe a neck, or it's like two trinkets and a ring. But any of the gear that drops out of here is going to be dropped at max level, so it's going to be completely. So you don't need any crest for these. You know, anything that you get from here is already going to be 6 out of 6, and I believe the heroic and the mythic of these items drop as spore fused because I saw some of the tooltips they were posting, and the normal one just dropped at the 6 out of 6 item level. Um, and the heroic and the mythic ones had spore fuse as a tag on there, a tooltip. So I believe it's only those two difficulties, but we'll see on Tuesday when it drops. But either way, they are all 6 out of 6. It's just the ones that have spore fused on it have the extra 9 item levels attached to it.
Yeah, which makes sense. I'm just trying to look at the. I'm probably seeing the same Wowhead article as you are. Um, yeah, I don't really
I followed the link
see.
to the full blue post on.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know if there is, a difference with the spore fused. Um, if it just has a cantrip effect on those ones.
The cantrip effect for what?
You were mentioning how they specifically say spore fused on the gear.
Oh yeah. The tooltip has shows the gear as actually, and I don't know if it was posted in. Yeah, I don't think it's in that one. They had an article and it showed a couple of the items from it.
I see. It's just the specification of them being spore fused as far as the tooltip. That's just signifying, like you said, that they're already max upgraded.
Yes, but if you look at the item level for those ones, let's say the mythic one is 298, which is 9 item levels higher than 289, which is a 6 out of 6 mythic item, and it is the same item level that your gear, your trinkets, and your weapons get upgraded to when you use a um, ascendant void core.
Right, right, right. I was just double checking because I know you mentioned it said spore fused to see if that meant anything else.
Oh yeah. I think yeah, I think it's just the +9. It's just because I didn't see the Spore Fuse tag on on the normal one, but everything is
Mm,
6 out of 6 for all the tracks that are on. So I think like just like the cool bonus of it is you don't have to spend crests, on any of these. Like
right.
you can just basically go run the raid. There's not very many items in there. If you don't want to do it over and over again, you kind of don't have to. With the Void Core system, like if you really wanted to, and you've gotten all the other gear, you could just use your Void Cores and grab each piece from here. It's probably going to be the best in slot, given the fact that everything that drops from here is not a weapon or a trinket, which you can already use your Ascendant Void Cores on, which means that these, let's say for us, we go in on Mythic, we down this boss several weeks in a row. Um, each one of these stands to be a really good contender, if not like the best in slot for us. So if you already don't have your best in slot, it'd be great to grab this piece, you know, because it's such a high item level. Is it 298 for each one of those slots? And I don't know yet, but I believe there's like a belt and maybe I forget what the item slots are actually supposed to be, but I don't know if any of them overlap with a tier set that you could just like convert, you know?
hmm Uh, let's see. Head, waist, feet. So the different armor types are different in terms of what the um,
Which armor type or
yeah,
class?
or which piece of equipment it is. So, for example, cloth has a chest and feet. Leather has head and waist. Mail has legs and feet, and plate has chest and waist.
Nice. So it's pretty varied. But it does look like some of those could be eligible for getting catalyzed, but since they don't seem to be like offering one to everyone, every class, they might not. It might just be that item level boost.
Yeah, my guess is you would be able to um, get them. Oh, excuse me, converted.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. um, so next we have the little bit of lore walking with the Loa. Lily is actually going to be taking us on that adventure, and you guys to dive deeper into the story of the Zandalari, Jakari, Gurubashi, and Darkspear trolls. So there's going to be a really, really big, like wide net being thrown out here for there's four of the major troll factions in the game. And so they're going to be like diving into those. I think that's going to be really interesting. I really love the lore walking experiences. I got to them late. They dropped, and then they even added another one near the end of the War Within, and it took me like basically the last few weeks of the expansion to get around to doing those when I didn't really have anything else to do. And now when the lore walking stuff comes out, I do them right away. They're so cool.
Yeah, good way to catch up too. If you haven't been playing the game for uh, as much as we have.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And this is going to be a lot of like new stuff that people don't know. So like if you are really into trolls, like this next patch cycle, next few patch cycles are going to be really good for you, right? We're seeding the story that we're going to get in point one, and then point one, all the way going forward. We're gonna be real heavy on the troll content, so that's pretty dang cool. Next up in the blue post from Blizzard, they mentioned the Darkspear trolls and their Zandalari allies as they race from Echo Isles to Silvermoon for an in-game event inspired by the Running of the Trolls community event, which is to help raise money for the Trevor Project. And it's an LGBTQ plus friendly community. But they've kind of made an official micro holiday, so it's like this 1 day thing, and because they have always set up on the Echo Isles at the troll starting zone, that's kind of where Blizzard is like decorated, and you see some. Basically, it's a troll banner, like a flag, but it's got like rainbow pride colors right like behind it in stripes. So it looks pretty cool. They got. It looks like we're gonna get a rainbow toy. I know. I don't know what it is exactly. Um, I haven't seen any notes on like the exact item, but I saw in some of the screenshots that people were like using it. But it could have just been the original um, rainbow toy that everybody uses that's like really expensive. I'm just hoping we get a cheaper option this time around. Even if it's just available for the micro holiday, like I would definitely log in just for that because I've always wanted that rainbow toy.
Yeah, they at least lower the price of it during uh, the event and holiday. I know they've done that in the past for the month of June. Um, so hopefully we'll at least see that again.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And the next one on the item list here for that blue post is Turbulent Time Waste. It starts June 30th, goes all the way to August 11th. We are going to see a new mount in this one. It is I believe it's the spawn of Virnath. Is that the one from Dragonblight?
Hmm.
Yeah, and looks really cool. Looks pretty dang close to that dragon. It's obviously like a smaller version of it, but if ice is your aesthetic, especially going back to Ice Crown or well, Northrend, this is a really cool mount to get. If you were really into kind of changing your mounts up for the expansion or whatever, I kind of like to change them up every now and then and kind of lock them in for a patch or the expansion. Going back to Northrend, this looks like a dragon I would definitely ride out there, except for my druid, obviously, right? Like just flight form. But yeah, it's either gonna be this one or the Time Lost Proto Drake.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It just looks just menacing and just crazy. And even though and this is a good example of what we were talking about art, like even though it uses the same sort of proto Drake skeleton, you can see it just on the main picture. They really, I think, nailed it out of the park with just his face and just how much of those glacial spikes are up around
Yeah,
his
that ice
neck.
mane. It looks so cool. And the
Hmm.
wings too. Like this was I'm really loving the art. The art team that's focusing on mounts is, I mean, top notch. If I know it was a shop mount, but those squirrels that they sold, they are spectacular. I basically have them
Hmm.
I just choose all of them as my favorite, only those, and then I just use the favorite mount button, and it just cycles through one of those squirrels, and all of them are beautiful. And granted, they're all like very similar, but like it's not even a recolor of some of the things. Like there was there was definitely effort put into the spell effects and such that were for each one of those squirrels, and I see that level of effort coming through in a lot of their other mounts. So it's really cool to see that. I hope it's got a really cool mount special effect animation.
Yeah, I think they're going to, like, it's just too good, I think, to not have it. But if he doesn't have it,
Like a frost
then
breath or something, you know.
yeah, then I think everybody's going to be a bit angry, including
Yeah.
myself.
I think that they've done a really cool job with the mount special effect on the animation command that you can use on most, if not, no, it's only most, because there are some flying mounts and some ground mounts, some mounts that just do not have an animation. But those are like the older ones. So far, all of the new ones that you buy, especially a shop mount, they will always have a really cool animation if you just type slash mount special, and that would be one word. And some add-ons will actually just put that button in your journal where you see all of your mounts in your collections. But yeah, those are always really fun to watch and see those animations. Some of them are just like really, really well done. I think the cats come to mind as well. What are they? The
Hmm.
the fur lines, the Star Touch fur line, and the Sun Touch fur line.
Yeah, and like you said, we're far from the days of just a sparkle pony, just giving us a normal horse. I don't know what you want to call it, neigh.
Yeah. The So moving on to our next news item, we have there's an add-on. It's called X Practice add-on. It was updated for the Mythic L'ura fight for Phase 4. I believe you posted this in our Discord, right?
I did, yes.
Yeah, they saw that. Rigus has posted it in our raid strategy discussion, is mentioning that we should probably grab it, and then we can run the reps on this and kind of get that down. I don't think that we lose too many people to the stars, right? Like we're really good with positioning with the stars and then dropping them, picking them back up. Um,
Hmm.
but if there's a section in because phase 4 also includes like running in between the lines in the constellations, right?
Yeah, I mean, basically, well, one of the things is that in heroic, because of our gear level and stuff, we sort of ignored that mechanic. Now, mind you, during heroic, it's more of a minor inconvenience with those constellations, whereas in mythic, you really do have to go through it. Um, there's multiple sets of it and everything.
Because you
Um,
kind of have to guess. You basically have to just guess which dots are going to get a line between them, and just stand in the middle. Like you don't really want to
yeah,
be in a position where you're going to be, and it almost like people have to pixel stack, which could be a little difficult to seeing where your character is when there's just a crowd.
right. The biggest issue is as it's pixel stacking during the secret phase, or what was the secret phase, because remember that everybody has to pixel stack in the middle during the what is it, heaven and hell, and then um, what the X add-on also has in it is that during that heaven and hell. Um, Whoever gets a star has to go like right to the edge of the circle, make sure that the star isn't going to hit anybody else, not just the people in the middle, but the other people who also have to go out to the edge with their stars in this small
Ooh.
little circle. So that is going to be the biggest key. That, and during the intermission phase where um, Laura pulls us in, and then instead of us having 4 spots that we can go to dodge the orb blast as well as to kill the orbs, we all have to evenly spread and throughout the entire circle so that nobody gets their small circles and everybody else's, and it's a completely even spread from the outside to the inside. um, that'll be also real key.
Yeah, run the reps on that seems like a really good way to just get that down. I mean, it's all like it's just mechanics, right? And just based the visuals based on what I saw from the screenshots looks really interesting. And yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to practicing that. I'd much rather practice it, not in raid, like because we have to fight our way to that phase just to run the reps on it.
Exactly. I mean, it's what, 5 maybe 10 minutes per, depending on what part, and that's even assuming you can get to that part again. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot better to have something like that help us out.
Plus, it pauses and tells you who died, how they died. Like it's giving you a lot of information. You're able. It pauses automatically. You can pause it, restart it. Like this is, add-ons like this. I think is really cool, and I hope they don't do anything to disable this kind of stuff. And genuinely, I think we were talking about this on an old podcast. I hope they make this. Yeah, we actually were because there's a Steam game that kind of does the same thing, and it did it for March on Quel'Danas and Voidspire, and maybe Chimeras too. So it's like that first tier of rating, and it's like, oh, that's really cool because it's like a simulation. It's in a whole game. It's a 3D world, and you're kind of moving around. But if we could just get that, like, as I would say, as long as we unlock the phase in the official, like, actual thing as a guild, like maybe even if it had to be, I don't even care if it had restrictions where it's like it's got to be a full guild run, right? Or like
Hmm.
those achievements have never been like all 20 people have to be guildies or something. It's been like 17 of the 20 or something are guildies, so it's like mostly a guild run, and we've mostly got that most nights. So I think even if it was locked behind something like that, just being able to unlock the opportunity to choose a phase and just run the reps on that phase over and over and over again. Even if you all die, you just get the res or something, and then start it all over again. Or if there's like too many people, you could set a threshold. If 3 people die, it automatically resets. Everyone's awake and standing. I feel like that's definitely something that they could put in the game, but I don't know. Like, would it be marketable? Could you market something like that, to really pump up sales? I think that's the kind of idea that they have
Yeah,
when they're putting features in the game.
I was going to say it's hard to balance our want of convenience with the difficulty of a game. um, would it be nice? Yes. Would I like to see it? Yes. But I also sort of like the idea of it being just from an add-on, um, just because then you know it's there's a certain sense of community and camaraderie that comes from going over a boss over and over again. Granted, it can really wear you down, but it is part of the game. So I'm sort of on the seeing both sides to that argument.
Yeah.
If you would make the argument, as it were.
Oh, for sure. I think in that case, I think it'd be really cool if Blizzard got into the add-on game, like themselves. Like if there was like official Blizzard add-on that got released for just stuff. Something like this would be interesting because you, especially if like Blizzard had like like a UI add-on like LVUI, right? Then there's
Right.
like this intimate understanding that they have of what add-on developers are running into. So like in their pipeline, they're hitting walls and they're like, all right, is it really necessary to lock this up? Like we could probably open this up. Like this is obviously not an issue or a security issue or something like this was an oversight on our part, but we now are on the frontier of developing these add-ons like along with our community, and this doesn't make sense. So let's just change it. I feel like they'd get to that point sooner with a lot of these things.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that because people did notice that during, I can't remember if it's the MDI or if it was during the PvP one, the arena, but they did notice that somehow, or maybe Blizzard had their own APIs for WoW, or they created their own add-on. But they did notice that they were able to track external cooldowns on the characters being played, and I can't remember if they also were able to see that for the healer side. I know you've mentioned this before, of seeing um, the uh, debuffs on people. I believe that's what it was. But anyway, as a healer, you want to see the real powerful debuffs, the targeted spells. That's it. Um,
Oh
and
yeah.
they were seeing that
That
on
may be
that as
just
well.
new functionality that perhaps was there. There's a mention that Ellesmere, who'd made
Ellesmere,
a
yeah,
UI,
exactly.
had created something, right? Like and I don't know that that's like because that person was, I think they were in Liquid right before. Or they used to play at a high level or something, or they're just like a streamer that everybody watches. But I believe they were on one of those teams before, and um, one of the guys that are actually in Liquid had mentioned something. It was hilarious. It was mentioned something about selling an add-on, and there was like a question that they have like how scummy is it to like sell add-ons and stuff, whatever. And he's like, oh, it's totally fine. And like, why do you think it's fine? He's like, it's because I do it. Like I sell an add-on. There's like a UI add-on that I sell or whatever. And he's like, I just took Ellesmere's add-on and like changed some
Oh,
things.
geez.
And they're like, dude, that's not cool. And he's like, he vibe coded the whole thing. They're like, okay, never mind it. Like. Never mind. You're stealing from somebody who already stole, so like whatever. So just
Yeah.
a funny perspective on how people see add-ons and the creation of add-ons, and I mean, basically, it's all open source. There's like in the function in the way that they function, like in game, how they're stored. There's no encryption or anything that you can use. So no matter who you are when you're creating an add-on, you give that add-on to whoever,
Well, let's
and
let's be more specific. It's not necessarily open source. Can you see the code? Yes, but that
yeah.
doesn't actually give you the legal right, whether it's Blizzard or actual law, to actually reuse the code. Again, you can see it,
Having
but
access to the source code allows you to just like rebuild it.
right, right,
And
right.
and there's so little oversight in this community for things, especially for things that don't make any money. And like some of those, the ones that do make money, I'm sure they can maybe come after a couple of people, but like usually there's like really big complicated add-ons that people sell and then they maintain, and that is like maybe you do it one time for one patch, but you're not going to keep it up. So people will stop using yours and just go back to buying the other one. So they have a strong foothold in the market for some of these UIs, especially the ones where you can buy one and it'll help you quest through the game. And they have all these
Hmm.
things written up and such, and they update theirs all the time. They got a team doing that, and they go for each new expansion. They play all the PTRs, they get all the data that they need, and so they've got a cycle figured out on how to update those add-ons. Like it's typically not feasible for the community to like update stuff like that's that big. But for like a UI add-on, it's kind of the same thing. Depending on how big the add-on is, LVUI would be a pain to manage. You know how many things they change? I had one add-on that I wrote for myself, and and it wasn't even big. It was just I just wanted to redirect the tooltip for my raid frames. So it was just a couple lines of Lua, and they broke it, and I've just been trying to figure out like what it's pulling from, and I can't get anything in terms of like a separate frame. Like when I look in fstack and try to see what kind of specific frame that the tooltips are on, and they're the same the same, like basically the game recognized them as the exact same thing as the actual raid frame. So there's like no distinguishable difference between the tooltip or the icon, like my buff and debuff icons on my raid frames for each character, and the actual raid frame itself for the character. So like hovering over either one is the same thing in terms of what the game is like outputting, and using like console commands, it just gets, it's annoying. And I'm sure I could figure it out eventually. I just don't have the time, and I hate it.
Right.
So, so at this point, like the only thing I just like, if somebody else figures it out, I just go, okay, let me just go look at how they implemented their code. It's all open source. I only need 2 or 3 lines of like Lua. I'm gonna see what they did with theirs. And so I read the code and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I know I could do that. That's just like the script. It doesn't come with the functions and all the other stuff and the building the UI and all the other things that they're doing, right? They're like reorganizing and building a whole UI and raid frames and everything from the ground up. Like I don't do that. I'm just moving a tooltip, you know. But I don't
Hmm.
do add-on like development a lot, so I don't. I was on a Discord and I think a couple times I asked for help and I just got ignored. So I don't know. I maybe have to have like a more robust like request form or something. I'm not really sure. So, but I mean, there are enough resources pinned so you can kind of figure some things out. But Blizzard doesn't really like tell people about many things and the
No,
changes they use.
yeah, because I've had to dig into some add-ons just for like try to fix them, like the compatibility of them in the
Hmm.
past. And the only way that I was able to do it and really see the changes um, was actually on GitHub. Blizzard does have I forget what the exact thing to search for. It's something like WoW UI Lua something. Anyway,
I gotta check that out.
yeah, basically it has um, the entire API on what the commands you can call and sort of what they do. The problem and the way you then go through it is you see, oh, this function changed from instead of from 10.0, which is last expansion. You can see through the commit history when it was changed for this expansion and what it either was changed to or didn't change or even was removed. And that's what I had to do in the past with previous expansions. But like you said, the problem is they don't actually explain in like comments or the actual code itself exactly what it's changing or what it's removing. Usually
Yeah.
it's like a different function name. And the as far as I can see, the add-on authors just have to go through that and
This
basically do the
feels
same
like a
thing I did.
job for AI. Like, I was
Yeah.
like, dude, you're not gonna put any proper notes in here or write a blog post about the changes you made. I can just run these diffs through Claude or something, and it's like, hey, like, what's the difference? What do they do here? What functionality changed?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna read through the whole code base just to find a tooltip, or like a buff thing. Like, but the fact that I know that it's here, yeah, like, it genuinely, this is definitely like the work of something I can hand off to a client or like an agent that I have, and just parse through all this stuff and then find the stuff that's going wrong.
Yeah.
It one of the resources that the WoW community has is you can just look in your own game files, but there are it's called Town Long Yak, I believe is the name of the website,
Yeah.
and you can actually search keywords and such throughout like the most recent updated copy of like game files, and it's all like the Lua game files and stuff for like the UI and such, and so you're not so that just has all the stuff you need and none of the stuff you don't. You can search through all of it and check out what the code looks like. And basically what I've learned is if you want to implement something, Blizzard, if you're going to be able to implement something, it's probably already written in a certain way, and the key hooks and such and the calls for that are somewhere in Blizzard's UI. And so while you might have the API or like or the console command to do a certain thing, there may be a way that it is typically implemented, and it is so valuable to search for that in the UI files and the Lua files for like the way that the UI is built. Because the UI that we see that we can't change, right? We turn on and off in like edit mode and like toggle certain things off, and another add-on is using it, like raid frames or something. But those UI elements are made by Blizzard, right? It's
Hmm.
just they function in a different way because they have back-end support. So like a website. There's a front end and there's a back end, and they're both running, you know. But whereas for us, like our add-ons are only running on our machine, and so they kind of work a little bit differently. But all the hooks and the commands and everything and the way it's implemented are there, so you can see examples of them and go, okay, well this is how you hook into this or whatever. And I found it to be useful, but this time around it wasn't. So I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah.
But I'm definitely gonna take a look at this GitHub page. I just found it, so I followed it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Be able to maybe find a solution to my problem here. I just want to get rid of that tooltip, man. It's really annoying.
Hmm. Hmm.
But speaking of add-ons, CurseForge is having an add-on trials contest through July 5th. So there is there's like 20 winners splitting $8,100 in prizes. I believe the top prize is like maybe it's like 3K. I believe I saw that somewhere. But this one specifically says you can't vibe code, so there's like no AI generated add-ons or anything that can be in there. Um, and they've got a couple other rules for it, but basically it's really just do whatever. So if you're an add-on developer, you've been thinking about like jumping in and you already know some Lua code, and you think you can make something kind of cool, whip something up. It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be, it's got to be useful or something that like does something in the game, right? Um, so it's probably going to be WoW related. I'm sure you can think of something. I mean, I recently saw somebody posting about, uh, you know, putting like HTML in WoW and doing some like really convoluted like I don't know. Um,
Basically, a translation
yeah,
interface.
or it's like they just really put a wrapper around it, right? It's like
Hmm.
HTML and like a Lua wrapper around some HTML, and we've got a couple other like add-ons to like do that, but it's just that one was definitely like a sort of like just a just a practice run on something, but just had no actual use. So there are add-ons that you can definitely like code and like get standing up and like on a technical basis function, but they got to do something. It's got to do something for the game, and then they'll find it, and it'll qualify. I guess they're kind of vague on that. It's just that I've seen examples of people creating add-ons that do literally nothing, so you can't do that. It has to be an add-on that does something, and they've got a few different like percentages for what actually counts for how they're gonna like judge it.
Yeah, definitely interesting to see. Especially, I was actually kind of surprised that they even had a contest just because of the AI generation era that we're in. Um, I'm hoping that they'll
I
be
mean,
able
I guess
to.
they think they can filter them out, but I
That's
mean,
exactly what I was going to say. Is
I'm gonna say honestly, I don't think they can.
yeah, I honestly don't think they can either, unless it was, let's say you get a bunch of people in, let's say you get 100 people in a room and you actually see them code it.
Yeah,
I really don't know how they're going
it's
to.
it's pretty simple. Like the only thing that's gonna like be a dead giveaway is if you've got like notes, like code, like
Right.
notation and stuff in there, and it's written from like an agent's perspective, like helping you out, right? And they typically when they do that stuff, like they'll inject like notes into the code or some things will just be nonsensical and it's like obviously but dude you can't just put some nonsensical thing and be like well this is the reason why it's AI. Is like all right, I've redesigned code that I've been working on before and completely abandoned a function I had in another file, and I even had it imported in this. I just deleted it, so it's not here
Hmm.
anymore, but it's still imported to the top, and that other one doesn't even and it's you're just like well this is obviously a weird mistake an LLM would make. It's like or a forgetful coder or somebody's
Right.
been working on something for a really long time and just changing a lot of stuff and letting the scope creep get them. Like there's a lot of reasons why some weird stuff can end up in code, and Lua is simple enough, and I think that if the scope for your add-on is small enough and you're a coder, you can absolutely vibe code your way to like a first place prize on this. Like I know that
Yeah.
they're trying to stop that or whatever, but like as as somebody who codes, as somebody who also vibe codes stuff, like I'm not going to learn Rust. I'm sorry, buddy. Like I'll do it later, maybe when I need it, like when I really, really need it, and it's for a job or something. But like if I need something and I need it in Rust for a very specific reason, like I'm just gonna figure out how to design it in the way that I know for the coding languages I know, and then just have like an LLM help me. Like, all right, dude, like this is what I want. This is where it needs to be. Like, let me review the code, and I can walk down some code and like basically figure it out. I can debug just fine, right? It's just like it's harder when I don't know Rust or I don't know like another like coding language, but because I code already and in several different languages, like not a lot, but it's enough to understand the jumping between them is pretty easy. So if I really did want to learn some, like it's pretty easy onboarding. It takes a long time to memorize a bunch of things and utilize certain code languages in like the way that they're kind of intended. Because there's a bunch of like nuanced differences between the ways like certain languages are and they're expressed. Python, for example, high level language. C plus is low level. You get to do memory management and such, but it's a lot more complicated. A lot of foot guns. Some things just won't even compile. I hate C plus for that. But if it's like this like really simple language is at a higher level that's closer to the user, right? Like you have things that are like interpreters and such things. So like Python's like super easy. It just gives you a little error here and there, but like most of the whole thing comes together. But like lower level languages like a lot harder. But overall, there's this sort of like paradigm that persists through all of them, and it's pretty easy to jump between all of them. So like, is somebody going to get caught for AI in this competition and get kicked out? Yeah, absolutely. There's some people who've never coded before and they're going to get caught because they don't know what code looks. They're just going to spit out whatever and just copy paste it in and not care. But then there's going to be somebody who doesn't write Lua, but they do code, and they're going to win a first place prize because they're
Hmm.
also creative. And really, in the end, like, are you going to really care? Like, you don't know it's vibe coded. Somebody who actually codes made it. Somebody who designed something really well made it, and they got the points for the three categories, which are originality, user experience, and design. So if they did well in all of those things, and you can't tell, like where are we at with this? Like, it's at some point they reveal it later on, and people are like, I'm gonna get rid of this add-on. Like, no, you won't. If it's something that people really like, no, you won't.
Right.
But that this is for a contest. I wouldn't. I don't know that I would expect anybody to maintain some of these add-ons. Some of them, perhaps, but like I thought about, like I released one add-on. It was a Dude Where's My Karok, and I've not like touched it or done anything else with it like since. But it's like really simple. It doesn't do anything except for like some stuff with the amounts. There's a few things I could change with that thing, but I didn't want to do something that was like dependent on UI features or like game modes that like could change, like UIs, like rate frames and such like that. Right? This is just pulling a spell up or not.
Right.
So yeah, I think if it's an add-on, like a really simple add-on, like it'd be kind of cool because those things, even through patches, like they kind of don't break. But if it's anything that does like a really convenient thing right now, I don't expect it to be maintained. But this seems like a really cool contest. I don't know that I've seen them do one like this for World of Warcraft add-ons before.
No, I don't. I don't remember anything either. Um, and you know, I again, when I say I'm surprised they would do this, it's not that you know uh, that I don't want them to do it. I think this is great. It's I don't want I want people to be able to create the add-ons and you know not just use their brain, but as an art form. So I just don't want people AI generating like half, if not most, of the contestants' submissions.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's we definitely like to see people bring something cool to the table. I imagine that the person who's going to win is somebody who's already been working on an add-on and just hasn't released it yet. You know,
Good point.
like I feel like people have definitely have projects, and this might be the thing that they need to really just push it to a release candidate, right?
Which honestly is fine by me.
Yeah, Yeah, I think we can expect maybe at least a couple submissions that are like that, and so I think we'll get some pretty cool add-ons from this. Or maybe there's some people who same situation, but they don't make the cut. They were still pushing to release, so we might even see some add-ons getting released like right after. So
Hmm.
Wowhead's been pretty good about catching. I don't know who is on their team that like looks for add-ons and such or whatever, but they've been pretty good about that. Maybe I don't know. Maybe they're just slumming it over on Reddit. I don't go to Reddit, so I don't really, I don't really know. But I know I probably should since we got this podcast, right? Like that. I know it's like another news source. I've thought about that. I usually um, Twitter. I find community discourse on the topic of our game on Twitter. Those are where I find conversations. So if I see something interesting, it's usually there. But I don't spend time on Reddit, but I know they have this a similar sort of place for conversation within the community there. Very public.
Right. I've never been much for social media or even Reddit myself. I was a dig person back in the day, so
Oh,
um, but
that's an
that
old
was,
one.
yeah, that was 18 plus, yeah, more than 20 years ago.
Dang, yeah, a while ago. It's been some time. And on to our next news item, we have an NVIDIA hotfix driver, 610.52. It addresses some WoW crashes specifically. So it's really cool that NVIDIA is dropping a driver update for a 25-year-old MMO.
Yeah, and what's interesting is it's just general crash fixes. I think it said something about a black screen with DirectX 12. Um, Very interesting that you know it's I guess like you said for a 20-year-old game, but it's very interesting how you know even though things like DirectX 12 or to a lesser extent WoW, and I say lesser extent because WoW is always evolving, but it is interesting how things like DirectX 12 and issues come up. Um, they can still come up even though DirectX 12 has been here for what, a decade or two at this
Hmm.
point. Um, but yeah, always good to have a driver update.
Yeah, and in the post that NVIDIA had or well WoW had posted, and it seems that they had like grabbed this from their website. It says a GeForce driver is an incredibly complex piece of software. We have an army of software engineers constantly adding features and fixing bugs. These changes are checked into the main driver branches, which are eventually run through a massive QA process and released. Since we have so many changes being checked in, we usually try to align driver releases with significant game or product releases. This process has served us pretty well over the
Oh,
years, but it has one significant weakness. Sometimes a change that is important to many users might end up sitting and waiting until we are able to release the driver. The GeForce
right.
Hotfix driver is our way of trying to get some of these fixes out to you more quickly. These drivers are basically the same as the previous release version with a smaller number of additional targeted fixes. The fixes that make it in are based in part on your feedback in the driver feedback threads and partly on how realistic it is for us to quickly address them. These fixes and many more will be incorporated into the next official driver release, at which time the hotfix driver will be taken down. To be sure, these hotfix drivers are beta, optional, and provided as is. They are run through a much abbreviated QA process. The sole reason they exist is to get fixes out to you more quickly. The safest option is to wait for the next WHQL certified driver, but we know that many of you are willing to try these out. As a result, we only provide NVIDIA hotfix drivers through our NVIDIA customer care support site. So that's what they have on there. If you are not really seeing performance issues in the way that they've explained on their driver page, you can see it there. I'd avoid it, and I would just continue with your normal releases. Just again, it goes through, as they said, a much abbreviated QA process. So it's not going to be there's going to be some edge cases, and yeah, if you don't need it, don't download it.
Yeah, and like it says, if you do need it though, you'll have to actually go to NVIDIA's website to fetch it. You'll have to go to their drivers pick your graphics card and then specifically go after the hotfix ones. They do separate them from the I forget what they used to call it, or I might be confusing it with AMD's. It's like the the NVIDIA Studio Ready driver, something like that. It's been a while.
Oh yeah, the I think I have it here on my. It's the NVIDIA app, right? Like the application they have, and I've got a tab here for
Mm-hmm.
drivers. So like, GeForce Game Ready driver, I can install that. Um,
It's
yeah,
game ready. Yeah, yeah. I think that's it.
yeah, yeah. That's what they're called. The previously installed Game Ready drivers. Yeah, it looks like last one that I had gotten was on March 24th of this year, and this one is May 26th. It's a couple weeks ago for the latest one. Oh, actually, let me install that right now. But yeah, this it looks like there's a couple months in between them. So if you're not, if it's a problem that you can wait like a couple months for, like go for it. Or if you're not seeing any issues, and like 2 months for the latest up driver is probably best. This is specifically for World of Warcraft, so like, maybe there's some intermittent issues that are happening with you, and this will help. But yeah, I think that the releases are close enough to each other that I wouldn't if you don't notice anything. But it is cool that they're like, putting something out. Like we're getting kind of singled out specifically there, right? Um, which speaking of getting singled out, Microsoft Gaming enters reset layoffs
Oof.
incoming. Um, so this last news item that we have for you today, we always like to cover some Microsoft news every now and then. I think it's really important for our community to understand what's happening with Microsoft Gaming, um, Activision Blizzard King, apparently, according to Asha Sharma. I did not know. I believe it's King Media or King Interactive Media. Um,
Yeah, I'm not
they
sure
made Candy
actually what their
Crush.
studio. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why the abbreviation you'll see is ABK.
Yeah, yeah. I did not know that they had picked that up and just like latched it on. I imagine that the King Interactive Media just like has like a lot of money or assets, or it's like a high value, which is why they got attached to like the name in the same way that
Well,
Blizzard got attached to Activision.
basically, yeah. So basically,
Because they've
Activision had
absorbed other companies and not done that.
right. They had absorbed Activision absorbed Blizzard, and then eventually Activision absorbed King, and then put them both together. Not just under Activision company, but they sort of put them, how do I put it, put them more closer to Activision. Wasn't like a random game or smaller game studio like, say, Vicarious Visions or something like that. I think it depends on how big the company is and just how much money it's generating, because we have to remember that King was just, and probably still is, generating just oodles and oodles of pure cash through not just Candy Crush, but their other games as well.
Yeah, definitely. So Sharma's memo posted June 10th put the gaming division's accountability margin, in air quotes, at roughly 3%, while revealing that excluding Activision Blizzard King, Xbox spent over $20 billion in 5 years as annual revenue fell by nearly $500 million over the same period. So she seemed to be really trying to emphasize that the Microsoft gaming spending has been high. Microsoft spending has been really high, but they've got a different sort of situation over there. They're buying a lot of hardware, spending a lot on RAM, infrastructure. There's a lot of things they're paying for. They're popping up like data centers and stuff too, right? Like they've got a lot going on. Um, and so Microsoft as a whole is just really heavy on the spending right now, and so it makes sense that the subsequent like portions of Microsoft Gaming and such, right? Like are getting squeezed. But like we had said before, when Microsoft Gaming gets squeezed, like we're still gonna have, like we're not gonna feel the pressure, you know. And I think it's still we're still in that good spot. But if Microsoft Gaming or Microsoft as a whole continues this decline without the adjustments that we literally see happening right now. So I don't think that we're going to continue the decline, but I think that if they were to, if something happened, economy, whatever, and it started to tank even harder, we would start to feel the squeeze because then they would start to depend on our game, really, like the most profitable thing in there, right? They have Call of Duty. Activision's got Call of Duty. It's very very popular, but I don't think that it pulls in as many consistent sales across right throughout the year.
Right. And apologize if there's noise in the background, but
Are you good?
what's even worse is that I saw this earlier today from Eurogamer. There are fresh claims, or I'm sorry, I should quote the fresh claims reported by the information and shared by Windows Central suggest Microsoft quote hasn't ruled out not only reorganizing Xbox, but possibly spinning it out into a wholly owned subsidiary or creating a joint venture with other partners. So they're even thinking to the extent or the possibility that Xbox isn't even going to be a part of Microsoft anymore.
That sounds like they want to still be a part of. That sounds like they want to mitigate the risk by
Exactly.
like spreading out the risk among other companies, so that when Xbox and gaming in general take a hit, they don't take such a hard hit. But when they profit, they're pulling in pretty good profits.
Or even pulling a Sega and just coming out with things for, you could play it on the Xbox or the PS5 or the Switch. Now, of course, we've heard, and they are seeming to go back to exclusives. But again, this is a pretty up and down, sort of chaotic situation where no one really has a true path forward right now. They're still thinking about it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think we're gonna see this play out across the rest of this year. I think all the way up until like Thanksgiving, like over the summer, we'll see where if we're getting anything there, right? Like there's animation studios kind of in the works, like working on certain things for Blizzard, right? Like we've seen some really cool animations for certain things. One that comes to mind for me personally is the music
Hmm.
video that was for Korn for the latest song that they had made just specifically for the Diablo expansion release. Amazing. Awesome song if you're a Korn fan. We covered it on this podcast a while ago. But the anime that was in there, uh just a heads up, just it is gory. So if you don't like Attack on Titan type of like level of gore where like people getting mashed up and eaten and stuff, like that's what Diablo's doing in here. So definitely avoid that if that's not your cup of tea. But it was incredible art regardless. Like it was so well done, and it's just the high caliber of art that we're getting for our animations and these cool little media spots that Blizzard is doing. And I'm just I love all of them and almost every single style that they choose. Like I would love to get a show or something, and I feel like we're getting pretty close to a release of something. Like maybe that's going to be a big summer release, either this summer or next summer. That Blizzard's going to be dropping something, right? Like, give all these kids something to watch over summer break or something, right? And then now in the fall, they're getting into World of Warcraft.
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. Um, Hopefully, any layoffs and stuff won't continue. Like like you said, by Thanksgiving, those will have ended. But we do know at the very least that, as far as history is concerned, as well as um, looking at history and seeing how things are going, that the memory shortage, especially, is going to continue for at least another probably 2 or 3 years. I think um, the reports have stated that the situation with memory in the past are on a 4-year cadence, 4-year cycle. Um, so I think it's like another 2 or 3 years, give or take. And of course, that's now dripping down to the SSDs, hard drives, stuff like that. So um, my guess is like you said, that they are going to pivot a lot to animation just because of that. I mean, and you can keep World of Warcraft, especially where it's not so graphically or CPU demanding. You can always, set it to low settings and get people interested in an animation, then play this game that can still run on your old computer. And,
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about buying any more memory, and just, go from
Or
there.
what? And honestly, I think might be a smart move for Blizzard is to make an animation about classic WoW, something set in
Mm,
classic WoW, and that could be people's first dive into it, right? Because retail WoW is a lot more demanding of your system, right? Because I
right.
can't full max out. I mean, I can, but I get probably like 20 frames to 30 frames or something if I'm running like all the way maxed out everything. Well, it's like, it's okay, but I'd prefer higher frames. So I turn a bunch of things off, and especially when it comes to PvP and the PvP, the world PvP that I do is like huge, huge crowds. And the
Right.
rating that we do has a lot of stuff going on. I think it was Quasi WoW, Chinese content creator. He does a lot of stuff for World of Warcraft, and he had this video on like setting your video settings specifically for like rating, and amazing because there are certain spell effects, like there's certain things you have to have up. So like spell effects is a thing you
Hmm.
definitely have to have up so you can see certain things because some spell effects just do not look the same at all on low settings. So you have to turn those up and then go through and turn everything else down. But there are still things you want to like keep high, and you sort of get this really good experience, right? You get a lot of spell effects, you get really decent, okay art. The stuff you're not really gonna be focusing on doesn't really matter, and the game performs really well. So I've set mine up like that. But when I go to classic, maxed everything, cranked all the way to the right.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think classic is a much easier entry point for a lot of computers that might not be like running like the newest graphics card, right? Because you can tune the settings and put them low, but it might affect your experience. Whereas in classic, it wouldn't. So if we can get some like animes out there that are following classic storylines, and you can go and just like actually see these places, and there's like a real parallel between, let's say, like Feralis and the Feralis you see in game. And that's an amazing jungle, like in and of itself. With like it's just the cool temple down there in the middle and stuff, right? Like, dude, that's such a cool zone. Like we have a lot of cool zones all over classic WoW. And if you put a story there, it would. I don't know. I think it'd really draw people in. Probably to Blizzard to retail as well, but just that got me thinking. The idea that before some of the recent expansions, like maybe like Dragonflight or something, World of Warcraft was just always able to run on like just the the most low end of PCs. They can run on a toaster.
Hmm. Yeah. With us going back to Northrend for retail, um, they have the Wrath of the Lich King classic servers, so you could actually tie
Mm-hmm.
it into both of them.
Ooh, yeah. A real, just like a dude. It's been 20 years, right?
Hmm.
It's been 20 years since the last time we went to Northrend, or it's been 19 right now. It's gonna be 20 by the time we go back there. It's It's perfect. You drop a story somewhere on that continent. You can even do it in the interim, and you know that's a good entry point for either one. People are going to come back. They're going to, oh, well, maybe I should play the old one, or even if it's like, oh, this is the only one that I can play, like it's an option. You either to
Right.
play the old game or the new game, and I don't know. I think, yeah, you're right. That would be a great selling point. Let's get some Northrend stories in here. You know, man, Man, I just love that continent so much. It was so varied. We had so many different zones, and they were so different from each other.
Yeah. It was the best. Best of both worlds. Of you know, great continent, a great
They took their
capital
time with
city.
it.
Yeah. Great raids. The zones in the raids. Like you said, the just you know different dungeons. We got I can never say it right. Anj Kahet.
Oh, Ajkahet?
Ajkahet. That's it.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. Yeah,
um,
well, the team so for a really long time, the community just hailed Ulduar as the greatest raid that World of Warcraft had ever had.
Oh
And
yeah.
they hadn't given anything that praise it again until Throne of Thunder came out, and as it turns out, same team.
Mm,
So that team got pulled off of Ulduar and got working on Throne of Thunder right away, which was on the other side of Cataclysm.
right, right.
So they put in a lot of work for that one, and the fact that they had put like this very specific team on that. I mean, both of them were on a grand scale. I think they were like really the stature of the raid was large, like monolithic, um, and they nailed it. I love Throne of Thunder. I thought that was an amazing raid. I think Pandaria Continent, Miss Pandaria, the expansion had just some of the best story that we had gotten in a really long time. Northland was really good. We closed in on an epic story from the RTS. People were chomping at the bit to play that first before the classic and TBC, right? But we closed out. It was famous. It was really loved by a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. But yeah, I just think we've we've we had some really great raids there, or really Ulduar specifically.
No doubt.
But yeah, there's actually we had a question from somewhere. Oh, we'd actually covered that on the the last podcast. I was asking, we were asking, I guess, where would be a good new capital city. I think it was like two podcasts ago. Because we're going to Northrend,
Right.
but we actually have a as a question that one of our guildmates had actually posted in our guild Discord. But I'm going to read this one here because Shami Hagar, or Pearl Sham, he's also known as, came back recently, and he's been posting on our Discord, and he's jumping back into the game, trying to level up right now. And a question he had for us, just in general, right? It wasn't to the podcast, but we're using it anyways. So, The Last Titan. Anybody have any thoughts on it? Does Azeroth come into being? Obviously not physically, since it would destroy the planet. So, if it does, is it ephemeral, spiritual, remain in slumber? Does it die? If it does awaken and somehow leave the womb, in quotes, do we still call it Where We Live in Azeroth? I think Azeroth either remains in slumber as a result of us having to save it, or even better, we're forced to make a decision regarding our destruction or Azeroth. Um, the reason why I wanted to bring this up, because I'd actually answered him in the thread there, and I talked about it a little bit, but I wanted to bring it up here because this isn't the first time I've heard this. We don't have any evidence in World of Warcraft lore that says a planet is going to explode when the Titan emerges or awakens. Like, that's not at all ever been a thing. And the only two planets that have ever been destroyed that we also know that had a world soul was Sargeras cleaving one in twain, because the Nazarim were like, yeah, if that thing gets fully corrupted by the void, like the old gods that are there, because there were more there, then it's no going back. It's gonna be real bad for everyone. It's the end of the universe, and so he just cleaved it in twain. Then the other planet that we've seen that's also destroyed is Karesh, and that one wasn't because it awakened, like it never got a chance to. That one got exploded by the ethereals. um Specifically the one that was helping Illyria and like kind of teaching her, being her like mentor. I forget his name, but it was last expansion during the Koresh storyline. You find out that he and the consortium and such, right, basically chose to blow up the core, the soul of the planet, because that's what Demencius was feeding on. And using the Rishi wraps and some of the other technology that they had gotten, they were able to cast this ritual, and the ritual destroyed their planet, destroyed the soul of their planet, which is like, it's basically the highest level of sacrilege, right? That any Because they all believed in the planet soul. They heard her, they were listening to her all the time. They heard her song. So like this, like everybody on the planet worshipped her, right? So it's like super easy to see that you have a god living inside your planet. And everybody was on the same channel, and then this doom comes, and they're like, okay, I guess we'll kill the god to save ourselves. Right, and so that's kind of where we did have like a sliver of Koresh at the end of it. But anyways, the planet is exploded, but not because of the awakening, right? And in all the lore where we talk about Titans awakening, like Aman'Thul being the first one, going back, and then awakening all of his siblings and such, right? There is no mention, as far as I know, of any planets being exploded, but Marvel has that, and
Yeah.
they released a movie like the. Do you remember which one I'm talking about? It had Angelina Jolie in it. I forget what it was. Immortals or Eternal?
Oh, Eternals. Yeah.
Okay, Eternals, that one. Yeah, which I thought was a pretty cool movie. It wasn't their best, but that's what I think people are like convoluting the Azeroth story with, or like World of Warcraft story with, because there's no exploding planets here.
Right. And the Eternals, I think, are like it's good that you brought it up. That whole idea of these, ancient gods and stuff. Um, I think that's where they're sort of pulling it from. The sort of ideas and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, as far as WoW, see, it's very confusing because I still don't think we really know what or even who Azeroth is. I
Hmm.
know we're getting
We
into the
have
last Titan,
right the
right?
last time they had a BlizzCon, I believed, or some panel, they'd shown concept art, and it's like this huge, massive like lady sleeping.
Well, what I mean is we don't know necessarily, at least right now. I'll say 99% to 100%. We know the last Titan's going to be Azeroth, but
Yeah.
we don't know what is actually happening. Was she always a Titan? Was her as a
Yeah, I think we're gonna see the Titans as bad guys, right?
yeah.
Because the Harndar they talk about the cradle and that it used to hold her, but she was stolen, not moved. She didn't get up and move herself. No, she's somewhere else. Like she was stolen from the cradle. She was ripped from the cradle, and when she was ripped from the cradle, like the trauma that caused is what opened up the wound that you see. It's kind of like the Sporegar sort of like spore area that leads to the Chimeras raid, right?
Hmm.
The Dream Rift. It's at the end of that channel there. And that channel, if you do this quest line in the zone, you find out that you can't be there. Like you can't go down there. We're a little bit special because we're awesome, obviously, right? So like we're like extra cool and we can resist pretty well. Um, Probably because we're like super powerful and imbued with power from like Azeroth as like through all these adventures and stuff that we've been doing over all these years. But for just a regular Haranier, they have to do what I forget his name, but um or Wena had sort of her perception was he was forsaking his belief and his religion and everything because he took this sort of drug or whatever, like at a high enough dose, so that he cut off his connection to Onhara completely forever, which is what they call their goddess, right? Which is what they call Azeroth. And he can't hear her at all. And so, like, hearing her song, even like subtly, because she hears her a lot, but like everybody else kind of hears a little bit, and there's kind of like the chosen ones or whatever they have in like their society. But being able to hear it is like this thing that they all connect to. And he has specifically chosen to cut that off. And the reason for that is because if you go down in that area, which is where they get their own dust, and which is a very core part of their society and how they like protect themselves and do a bunch of other things, and heal themselves. And so it's necessary for them to go down there and collect those things and come back. And the only way to do that on a consistent basis is to cut yourself off completely. Otherwise, the examples are shown as you will go crazy. So there's like this level of like power that she has, and because Haranir or Harandar is the land that is beneath the cradle of where she was born, it's just infused with all this magic. And the the scar that was left after she was ripped from the cradle, as they claim, um, it's basically, and they don't really explain. Is it her that's crying out to you when you go down there into that crevice, or is it just like the trauma of that moment, which is what scarred the land, and like that essence from before is what's like echoing in your head, right? Those cries and such, right? And like that's why it's an issue to be down there. And they don't explain it and they don't tell us anything about that stuff, but we know that she used to be there. We know that they don't know anything about the Titans. And so I feel like we're lining up things to like the Titans and maybe the bad guys, and they were like, we got to like secure this. They spent all this time building the machinery that they built literally throughout the entire planet. It would not surprise me if this planet was half machine at this point.
Well, we don't even know if, I mean, the Titans could have even done it in such a way where they weren't intending to do anything wrong, but they saw the threat of Sargeras or the Void.
Oh, the old gods.
Yeah,
They needed to
and
protect her,
mhm.
and the cradle is just too exposed.
Or even just that um, maybe Azeroth is in itself, you know, the sort of the last stand for either. Again, I'd have to open the cosmology book or the cosmology map, but at least we'll say simplified that Azeroth might have been or is the last Titan and the last one that can prevent everything from destroying itself. Maybe they took her in order to keep her safe. Um,
Yeah.
sort of a lot like what happened with Moses in the Bible. We don't know. Um,
Hmm.
um, or and we also don't know if she was a Titan in the beginning, like in terms of that's who she is. Maybe she became a Titan by being here in Azeroth, or is the planet a shell, like an eggshell, and then Azeroth herself is like the chick in the eggshell.
Hmm.
Again, we don't know. Um, there's a lot of questions that exist that I think are going to get answered by the time, not only uh, the end of Midnight, I would argue, is going to, show some major things, but of course, the beginning and the end of The Last Titan. I just think there are right now too many questions. I mean, even Chimeras, whenever you're fighting him, he, is constantly exclaiming about the pain, and
Yeah.
you'll die like her, or I forget the exact words. So, um, and I don't know if that's, is Chimeras gone mad, or was Chimeras, say, closer to her, as I don't know what you want to call, like,
A manifestation.
yeah,
Right? I
a
mean, because if
manifestation,
we're
or
thinking about it, if you do the Harndar quest line where you're helping them out, you do the whole story, and I think a lot of us we had to because it was like main storyline. In there, we have to go and defeat this really large manifestation, this large monster inside of a cave somewhere. And the reason when we're fighting something so big is something that big actually takes a really, really long time to get there. So they're really rare and there's not a lot of them, but they're super deadly. So,
Mhm.
but it's the best way to get some, like a large amount of all dust. And so going and doing that was just a huge risk in general, right? The Undreamt God is kind of on the same level, but like amplified from like the story version of the storyline quest line that you were doing. And this, of course, it's a raid, so obviously it's higher stakes. And in terms of story, in the lore, it is genuinely a much bigger monster than the thing we saw in the quest lines. And so, same thing. That thing is down there, and the fact that it is down in that valley means that it is a manifestation of coalesced alm dust because everything down there is either like I think like fauna that has adapted to the environment, and then the creatures are all manifestations. Like they're all just like at first you start off like really small things. Like maybe like a squirrel or a butterfly or something, right? And at the more alm dust it collects over time that coalesce onto it, it will turn into something else. And that's what Chimeras is. He's gotten so big, and there's never, it's not like, oh, you're a deer. Well, now you're a bigger deer. Like, it does not care. Like, there's like this weird function down there where you're getting like mixed animals and like weird things and such. and it's just because they grow into whatever. So it's almost like nature magic, like creation magic, just kind of atomized. It's like all in the air there, and as it starts to like coalesce into things, like they just forms just start latching on. And if you look, Chimera's got like a lot of extra hands, and hit one arm does not look like the same animal as the other arm.
Right, and we still have the question of the sword in Silithus. And like you brought up about the cleaving the planet in twain, was Sargeras trying to do that again?
Yeah, as
And
a
let
last resort, right
and
before he got in prison.
right, and I don't even just mean to try and cleave it in two. Was Sargeras trying to turn Azeroth to his side? Maybe he already knew about it. Was he just trying to kill it before it was born? Is there lasting corruption? Because there's also the area in the War Within where Nurubar Palace is, and we see the and the I forget what they called the Harndar called the blood. Um, I believe that was Azeroth's blood. I can't remember, but there's different things going on because we have the Azerite slash Alm dust. We have the that corrupted blood. Um, there's just a lot of questions that aren't yet answered yet that we can really decisively say. But I think it's a interesting thing to think about until we get it. My guess is that Azeroth is sort of the last Titan and the last one that can stand up to Sargeras and stuff, and that um, if he couldn't completely destroy Azeroth, at least not yet, that we're going to be facing him off again as we go into the last Titan, and probably have another uh, Mana Forge Omega type of boss fight with um, uh, not Decimus, like we had with Dimensius, where it's just going to be a giant, a just a ginormous boss fight like Dimensius, going up against
Mm-hmm.
Sargeras with Azeroth helping us. Um, I think it would be real cool because we did see sort of this kind of assisting a different Titan or being not just during like Old War with their raids, but the one that comes to mind. Let me see if I can get it. Was from was it?
We were
It was
we were
Aonar. Uh,
watchers, right?
right.
Which
The
are like
Watchers.
they're kind of like mini copies of like Titans, like a really tiny mini version of one.
Right. Um, but I think what would happen is we'd have sort of a cross between the A&R boss fight where we're going up, down, left, right through all these lanes trying to prevent the enemy from either killing Azeroth while Azeroth is trying to kill Sargeras, and then we could go to like a second boss fight where we've defeated the little guys that Sargeras has, but now we have to get in and start crawling on him, Shadow of Colossus style.
Okay, yeah. Like we've been doing some pretty cool like fights in our raids. We've been like kind of really like scaling things up. Dimensius was one, but genuinely, when the dude is that far, like I'm not really feeling it. Like I get it on a technical level, like he's that big, but like he was too far.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really appreciate. I know that I flew at high speed and high velocity to go around him. Still, I wasn't looking at him. I was looking at space and avoiding things and trying not to die. Also grabbing extra orbs. So like yeah, it wasn't the experience that I think that they thought it was going to be. And while again, technically he was that big, there wasn't very much to impress upon me the scale difference between me and Dimensius because he had to be far enough for us to see him and see the animations, him throwing things, and just the other mechanics that we were dealing with were much more on our scale, and he was just far away. But I can see where they're going with some of these things. Some of our raids have been like really big like that, and if we fight something as big as a Titan, yeah, we should definitely do. What was that game? The Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never played that game, but I watched people play that, and absolutely, like a whole raid team, like, and I know there's a certain constraint that we have with raids where we all got to be together. They split us up sometimes, like with the Queen Ansarek fight, um, but that doesn't always happen. And usually we kind of, and it's like for a phase. And usually we're like together all the time. And I think it'd be really interesting to like fight a Titan. And it would take a raid team, of course, right? Like, but you would probably split up, right? Like you'd like go to different places, and I don't know. Like, I really do hope that they can make that fight or that raid really interesting. And I think a Shadow of the Colossus like level would be really cool. Because you're right, the Anar, the Lifebinder, was an interesting fight. It had like a lot of lanes, like the platforms, and you're walking up a ramp this way, and there's a lot to be involved. Because if everybody remembers, the 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 biggest, most raw, open exposure that we've ever seen to Titan technology has been in Northrend.
Hmm.
We've never seen anything else on that scale exposed like that. We know that they're deep within the earth and they have a lot of other stuff or whatever, right? But and granted, Kazelgar was a thing, but it was nowhere near the size of Northrend, and and I would even say is like it's not even close to the size of Storm Peaks. And we have Storm Peaks as an example of Titan technology just out in the open engines of the makers, just a hole in the ground, a hole in a mountain, right? Like an entire mountain range has obviously been hollowed out and replaced with machinery. We see the same machinery and same control rooms that very obviously have like connections between that place and the south end of Silithus, right? On
Hmm.
like way down there. So while we see little bits of like their technology like sprinkled around and everywhere else, we see a massive example of it in the Storm Peaks and also in it's just right above Borean Tundra and next to Wintergrass. Was that
Dragonflight.
no?
Oh no, that's east.
Yeah, but yeah, you know what I'm talking about. It and it's watched
Hmm.
by like Freya, and she
Oh, the
had these.
the Nexus point.
That's in Caldara.
Okay.
That's to the west of Borean Tundra. So it's just above, just to the north of Borean Tundra. It's the jungle area. It's like
Oh,
sunken in.
Sholazar Basin.
Sholazar Basin. Yes. Yeah, that one. That's Titan technology right there. Right? It's like almost
Hmm.
like the entire land of of Northrend was like prime for just like seeding it with Titan technology because it's not just there. And mind you, like, while the Nexus is like its own structure and that's like a blue dragon thing, they're only little smarty pants like they are because of Titan Tech, right? So it's
Hmm.
like this is almost like a manifestation of Titan Will as well in a different sense. And then, of course, across Northrend you have like those, floating platforms and such everywhere because there are some ley lines that really cut through and cross over each other in Northern. Again, probably a good reason why all the machinery is there, right? And if you take a look at all the other spots where a temple or a city or a civilization or like anything that's long lasting has been put that also wasn't exploded by that cataclysm back in the day from the Well of Eternity blowing up, like anything that's still left over is on a ley line crossing.
Hmm. Right. Exactly.
And Northern had a lot of them. Northern also had like raw ley lines just ripping open the ground, right? In Dragonblight. And that was probably had to do with like the blue Dragonflight doing weird stuff or whatever. But like there's aside from that, we see just a lot of Titan influence down there. I mean, the the Dragonblight, the Temple Wormrest Temple, looks like Titan technology.
Hmm.
Like it's different. It's got different little different vibe. It's like Dragon, right? But like it definitely has got like some Titan architecture kind of deal going on. And they never say who built it, right? But it's probably the Stone Dwarfs.
Yeah, and it's obvious that Northern is a real central point of where things both began and are sort of ending.
Yeah, yeah. After this, like, ooh, like man, how do you? how do you knock it out of the park again?
Yeah. But I mean,
I'm assuming that it's going to be a really good expansion because Midnight was great. Like
oh,
as for its opener, right?
yeah, but I mean more so the start and beginning of the lore history of WoW. In other words, Northern had a lot of stuff like Galakron, where the dragons were created, but then we also had
Yeah.
um, Arthas and the Helm of Domination, which hooks into Shadowlands, and depending on how much they retcon that or not. Um, and then now we're going to be going there for the Last Titan again, and of course we have all the Titan technology and stuff. So there's a lot there that is the beginning and the end, and a pivotal point on the map of Azeroth as to its history, what's happened, and what's going to happen.
Ulduar gave us a lot of that too. If we followed Bran
Mm-hmm.
around and did the quest lines with him while you were doing Ulduar, like stick around. Like if you go there and do the transmog run or do like a run for like Mimiron's head, after you beat the council, the Iron Council, just stick around and he'll open up the next room right back there, so you don't backpedal yet. Where you go to Kolagarn and fight him, just stick around. The door will open. Bran will run up just like he does in. There's another dungeon that's like Titan Tech. That's a 5-man. It's in Northrend.
Storm
Halls
Peaks.
of or no, Halls of Lightning.
Yeah, that's
And
it.
at the end of that one, you will get a Bran. You'll get another Bran experience. Basically, same thing, but on a smaller scale because Halls of Lightning is a lot smaller. But he runs up to the console. He's like trying to tweak it and like do stuff. Honestly, it just sounds like he's like punching the console. He doesn't know what he's actually doing, and then it just kind of lets him in eventually. And he just does that every time he sees a Titan console.
Mm-hmm.
So just silly things with WoW or whatever. But he's there in Ulduar, and when he gets the constructs and like the computer system and such to speak to him, like there's a ton of lore there, and there's almost like the origination of like what the Titans were building and such. And there's like you're saying, there's a lot of like originating lore that surrounds Northrend, and to kind of bring like the culmination of the trilogy and probably a lot of storylines. Like we're going back to Northrend. Like I imagine that we get to talk about storylines that just completely got abandoned. What happened to the Blue Dragonflight and how they operate there? That was like a really big deal for them. The Nexus was like a big deal for them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then yeah, hey, you got the Dragon Isles back. What happened to Wormrest Temple? Like who's watching it? Is it just like the Bronze Dragonflight that's like hanging out there? Because they have a spot just to the northeast of Dragonblight, right? Or not? It's northeast of Dragonblight. The zone is in the northeast section of the zone, but it's northeast of Wormrest Temple. It's this little sand Caldara. Have you ever been there? There's like some like time
Do you
walking.
do
There's
you
some.
do you mean the the one with the I'm trying to think of the word, the big hourglass?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Whenever we run into ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we've done
yeah,
a couple things there, and there's like, didn't they have like a 5-man dungeon that like takes you back, like the travel
yeah.
through time
So
and stuff?
so that's
End time.
during Cataclysm. Yeah,
That yeah, it was called End Time,
end
I
time.
believe.
Hmm. And we do go back there, and that's where we face Murazon, and that's where also we've now defeated Murazon, what, technically twice. Once through end time, which was we couldn't prevent Murazon, and everything went to hell. Deathwing actually won, and then we
Yeah.
fought Murazon in Dragonflight, where not only did he turn into Murazon in the good timeline, where we did defeat Deathwing, but we actually brought him back because Murazon thought, or Nosdormu thought, that whenever he became Murazon, no matter what, that was the end of him. We had to kill him. He couldn't come back to us. And that's also where his vision ended as far as his powers over time and what he could see in the future. So that's again another hook into Northern, where all this stuff keeps happening.
Yeah, yeah, there's so much speculation, it's really fun to like talk about. what could happen. But BlizzCon is really soon. I I don't think we can go with this BlizzCon without hearing something. I think we
Yeah,
have to hear something.
yeah. I think I do think we're going to hear something. It's just a matter of how much and what is it going to be. We can speculate what it's going to be. I really don't know, but it's probably going to be some lore bits. But my guess is they're going to save it for, or at least some of it. Well, I'll say at least 50%, um, or even more of the bulk of it for the next BlizzCon and or I don't know, maybe a Summer's Game Fest.
Yeah. All right. I wanted to cover our progression because we do still want to try to recruit some people. We're doing pretty good. We're getting some progress on these bosses. And right now we're working our way through Saladar and making pretty good progress. We're just getting a few mechanics down, and we should be wrapping him up pretty soon. And then we'll be on dragons. And I know there are some teams, a lot of teams that are like much more further ahead. But yeah, we're still trying to build out the full team. So we have like consistent raiders that show up every week, and I think that's really the key is the same team that shows up every week. And even if you got like two or three on the bench and you're kind of rotating people out, some people get a little tired. They want to take a little break and swap out for a couple pulls or something. You know what I mean? That's kind of stuff that you can do when you have a full roster and then a little bit. And so we're really trying to look to fill it in. We're getting really close. Where I think on a good night we don't pick anybody up. When everybody shows up, we have it. It's just we have a lot of people who are busy with life and certain things that come up and such, and we typically don't make a big deal about that at all. So it's really flexible, for now. But as we try to remind our raiders, like as we start to build the team and get more of a consistent team, and we have people showing up more consistently, it unfortunately becomes the people who aren't showing up consistently that will remain on the bench a little bit more. There'd be less opportunity for them to just jump in, especially if we're just like progging on something and it's like getting really difficult. It's better to just keep the people in the team that are already there. But I mean, to that, we're still looking. We're still looking for people. If you think it's hard to hit those numbers, it really isn't. The damage is kind of all, like guaranteed to be there. The biggest thing that we need from our raiders is to consistently show up and to learn mechanics. Like that. That is it. You know, it's a lot of the stuff is difficult, but just the way that they've treated gear, at least for this season, and I hope that it goes forward like this. Eye level and damage output is kind of a given at this point. Like, kind of just expect people to be at a certain level, and they usually are. Even with a lot of eye level, like you kind of be a little bit down, and it's not. You're still doing enough, and the damage isn't something that we're like, all right, we really got to cut people because the damage isn't enough. Like the damage is more than enough. It's learning mechanics, is getting the mechanics down and such. And so, if that's the kind of player you are, we're definitely looking for people like that. Find us on our Discord. You can join up, and yeah, we look forward to seeing you. But do you have any thoughts, Templar, on some of our progression as we're going through Saladar right now, from a tank's perspective? Is you kind of like leading this thing, you and Scourge.
Pretty much the same thing. It's just there's part of the problem is that the boss fight does exhibit the color on color. I don't know what you want to call it, multiplication issue, where
Yeah.
there's a lot of purple on purple, which means you
For
can't get on the.
L'ura, I've had to turn the outline for my character on. I
Yeah,
usually don't. I don't, kind of don't like that aesthetic in the game, but like just because they keep doing this to us, it's almost necessary. I turn it off after the raid.
yeah, and so part of the things is that not only just the repetition, but just the awareness of things going on. I know there's been a few of the uh, pools where us as tanks have been kind of put into a corner and we can't really move. One of the things is that the DPS, the heals, to try to be more aware of where you're going whenever you get the stars on you and to fan out. Um, Part of the reason is not just to keep each other alive from the stars going out and then um, killing someone, it's also to make sure that whenever we get the orbs down, we get them killed, that we don't have the puddles in the middle of the room. We don't have the puddles in the middle of the room, and we can, sort of keep them maybe on the, I'll say for lack of a better word, the inside outside. So just sort of on the outside of the room. The more room we'll have when the lasers come, and everybody will be happy. And then the boss will fall. So it's really getting the dance down, putting yourselves into right position. And for us as tanks, we're I know for me, I'm kind of running like a chicken with my head cut off, because once those orbs start
There's a
really
lot to
spawning,
avoid.
yeah, and we really have to try to.
Oh, you have to kite, right?
Yep, we have to wrangle them like that really bad beginning mini game of Zelda Twilight Princess with those goats, trying to wrangle them all in.
Yeah, there's a lot of kiting and a lot of movement in this fight. It's really difficult for I imagine for melee, you know. And
Yeah.
and there's just like yeah, like you said, practicing the dance. We have to. Some of the stuff is just figuring out where to go because in general it's like okay, well I'm already here. I should just go to the edge of the closest edge of the circle, but it's such a massive arena, you almost can't do that. Um, so you end up having to basically I think it's just pre-positioning is what because I found it that for myself I end up being out of position, but doesn't matter for me. I'm a healer. I will keep myself alive. I will be okay. You will not. If you are not a healer, you should not be running away from the raid. You are not going to survive. I know the risk that I'm taking, and I just don't even think about it. I'm able to heal myself, and there's still a few people that are within range, so I can still keep my hots up and keep my cycle going, or I keep my rotation up and keep those up. So like my healing doesn't really dip too hard when I do that, but I'm able to keep myself up and to keep still heal the raid. I don't lock myself out completely where I'm just like the only one on my raid frames that I can heal. But I can make that choice because I'm a healer and I won't die. If you're in a position like me and you get the circle, the first thing you should think is just head towards the raid. Because if you
Mhm.
try to head towards a wall, you might not, I don't know. And then there's just a lot of mechanics you have to contend with. And you might end up getting pushed out further than what you originally planned for. And so, as a good kind of frame of mind to have is to just either pre-position and be just really tight on the group altogether, not like stacked, but just like a loose group, and always kind of in the area of like the wall where we're at. And you guys seem to like rotate around the arena, so we're like not staying near where the void spawns are getting dropped off. But if they just start getting thrown everywhere, like it makes it difficult to like move around. And they're
Right.
not that big, but we get a lot of them.
Yeah, and they just keep multiplying because, once the big orbs are dead, two orbs or the small
Mm-hmm.
orbs are created. Whenever the next orbs comes out, those two small orbs become active, and then
Ooh, and the
we get,
kicks.
yep, and the kicks,
Yeah, the kicks are brutal.
and then we get the two new orbs, and then we go from two small orbs to four to six to eight.
Because the
And
NPCs that you have to kick, like while they're casting, like they're kind of shutting off that part of the arena floor, right? Like you got to get out.
I don't think they actually damage you like the interrupt ads.
Oh man, they have
I
so
don't
much.
have a
Yeah, they have
memory.
so much arena coverage. I always just jump out of the way, or like you end up with like this little tiny spot that you have to perfectly stand in. And I didn't
Yeah,
know if it was damaging anybody or not. I just always get out.
I don't think so. I don't think they hurt you. Now, the problem is just how big the arena is, and they can be anywhere, especially in the corners. And I
Yeah.
know Kane, one of our DKs, this wasn't on him. He couldn't see the dang ad because it was stuck in a corner somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
out in the boondocks, and it just, you know, couldn't see it. So he's a very mechanics heavy boss. It's in now we do get a lot of damage, like as we go from the killing of the second orb per round, but that's when we
We've
have
got our cooldowns for that, so like we're pretty
right,
set on that. I think we've been doing pretty good.
right, and so once you get that down, it's the damage is minuscule compared to just getting the mechanics right. You know,
Hmm.
you can always pop a health potion and stuff like that. So, um, but yeah, I agree. I think we're not only on the cusp of it, but we'll get it this week.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to that. And genuinely, every boss that we've like gotten down, there's just something for our raiders. Like once it clicks, like it clicks. Like we genuinely do get them in farm. Like
Hmm.
if we're on Saladar, like we just blow through everything else. We just get to Saladar, and now we're progging. And I feel like we're doing so much better in terms of that, like this season than we were last season. Because last season we had some regression here and there.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
This time
Um,
it's like always like pushing forward. I love that.
hmm And again, the bonus rolls and just having the one boss fight with Chimeras really does help because we can get Chimeras down. Everybody can use their bonus rolls if they need
Ooh,
to
I
try
got
to get a
gaze last
trinket.
time.
Exactly. See,
Yeah.
and
And more of our raid is getting it, and you can just feel the power level just rising.
exactly. So the way that the system is being implemented as well has been really good. With the bonus rolls, we're going to get the Omnium Folio. So we're getting there. It's taken a while, but we're getting there.
Yeah, definitely getting there. I really excited for this next week. Yeah, we're definitely gonna get them down and then take a shot at dragons, which I hear is like and from what I've seen is there's mechanics to like contend with for sure, but it's mostly straightforward.
Yeah, it's more of an adjustment going. Essentially, two dragons will be there all the time, and
Because
the
their mechanics don't overlap, right? Like they
not
don't just accidentally go off at the same time. It's like one and then the other and then
right.
one and then the other.
It's
Like you get
it's
the fear and then the orb, but you never get them at the same time.
Yeah, the biggest difference is actually the intermission because their abilities will go off during the intermission. And
Okay.
that's where the real difference is. Um, it's basically so the main fight is just heroic but harder, and the orb that the one dragon shoots, you have to put it in three specific places just because of how large it gets, and so everybody can get hit.
Oh, so you have to point it correctly, or the tank has to point it correctly.
Exactly, and it's like
Ooh.
um, you know point it at this point first, then the second, then the third. Other than that, for the main phase, it's pretty much the same thing, just harder. But it's in the intermission when people have to go out. And for example, when the orbs come out, there's going to be a point where the orbs come out. So group one or group two is going to have to go out of the holy circle for the healing, and you get those ads. So a group is going to have to go out of that circle, get hit by the orbs, and aim at. Actually, I think it'll be automatically aimed. Can't remember. Anyway, and make sure to get hit and then go back into the center. And whenever the fear comes out, the person who's in the center has to dart out and make sure that it's, completely not hitting anybody.
Yeah, that
So,
one's gonna be a tough one with like limiting arena floor.
mhm. so, um, and again, the good news is that both dragons will be on the ground the entire time. So, cleave builds, it's just going to be a constant, DPS race. Or I'm sorry,
Yeah.
not race. It's just you're going to be constantly be able to DPS to both of them. So it's not really going to be that big of a deal during, actual hitting them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's mostly just like they don't share a pool, right? You got to keep them even.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's really that seems like just a call out thing, right? We're just directing the raid call to jump from one or the other.
Yeah, and again, it's we're not going to need to have just ranged hit this boss and just melee hit this boss. It's going to be everybody can hit them both at the same time, and then of course
Yeah.
whenever the ads come out, um, give them a good punch in the snoot. Um, but
Yeah.
it really is the intermission is the biggest change. Otherwise, it's just a DPS and healing check and a little bit of adjustment. So I would argue that Saladar is probably, at least for us right now, is harder just because of the arena being big enough to where the interrupts can hide anywhere, but small enough to where the small orbs and the puddles start making a real big difference after we go from the first round with him into the intermission into the second round. And the reason I say this is because, not only we're not race to world first, but there's been, a lot of adjustments to the bosses. And I think that Saladar is just mechanically a bit tougher, whereas since we have all the trinkets and we have all the power-ups and gear, we can probably blast the dragons pretty quickly, I would argue.
Yeah, Paladins is probably going to be the one we contend with before we really, push on Illyria.
Right.
But yeah, and honestly, I imagine Illyria is not going to take us that long, especially after all these nerfs and everything. Just mechanically, she just doesn't seem like she puts up as much of a fight as L'ura.
No, it's L'ura is going to be, and still is, the hardest boss fight ever. Um, and it's good that they made some changes. And I did see, WoW had article about Northern Sky Tools, the add-on. There's a lot of good changes in it that'll really help us out, because that's when we're really going to have to use the macros for targeting and killing the ads that circle around her, and when they'll be really useful. Because we got to get it's 5 interrupts on those things, and I believe they increase. Is it 4 of those ads, or is it still the 3? I can't remember. But anyway, it's a lot more damage, a lot quicker, and there's just a lot more stuff we have to deal with, especially because we can't outright kill her. We have to go to where L'ura powers herself back up and go through that heaven and hell sequence.
Yeah. And in that sequence, we were reading for the actually, like, is it that sequence, the secret phase, or only phase 4, where the crystals that are like the light protecting us, like, are empowering each of the raid member to do a ridiculous amount of damage.
It is that secret phase, yeah. And secret phase
just
is
staying alive is like a huge amount of damage that you're passively doing.
Right. And it's not just the DPS; it's everybody.
Yeah, everyone. Just as long as you are a conduit for that light, like, you are damaging the boss. Like, it is super important to just stay alive. Like, so it's a heavy emphasis on mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. I love that about the direction they've been going with a lot of this stuff. And really, I think we've all kind of seen people. We get the gear, and it's still not enough. It's the mechanics that are really stopping us. But the gear's been really easy to get, so that's not been really a contention in what we're dealing with. Right? Everyone's all pretty geared out.
Exactly.
All right, and with that, I think we're going to end it. We got a pretty good one here. 2.5 hours. Whoa, 240, around 240 or so. This one will be. So yeah, pretty good run. I like when we get the episodes where it's a little bit longer. Our numbers haven't gone down, so I think our audience likes it too.
Good to hear.
And before we go, if you want to support the show, the best way is through our Patreon. Every bit helps us keep the lights on, improve the production, and keep this going every week. You can find us at patreon.com/lastattemptpod. If you can't spare the gold, that's totally fine. You can still help in a big way at no cost. You can find us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Drop a rating and a 5-star review. Biggest thing you can do to help new listeners find us. And, just say however you feel about the podcast. Leaving the comment really kind of legitimizes the podcast. It shows people are listening, and enough people are listening that, the small percentage of people who typically comment, like, It's kind of it's almost like a ratio, right? Like it's like one to 100 or 1 to 1,000 or something. So like the more comments you see, it kind of it gives it a presence, in there. And so we definitely appreciate any of the comments we get on our YouTube videos, any of our social media posts that you find us on, or Apple, Spotify, and such. Those are always great. Speaking of our social media sites, we have YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and now Twitch. And I didn't get to get everything set up and so we can stream the MDI finals. And I'm going to be at BlizzCon, so I don't think I'm going to stream that one either. But I did see with some of their stuff that we kind of basically would have had to sign up for like being able to co-broadcast it and such. And
Uh,
it's still, I would have had to fill out a Google form. It would have made, I don't know if like they would have only allowed me to do it if I was competing. Like it's like because it was one of the questions was like, "Are you competing in the tournament?" I'm like, "No, I just want to I just want to broadcast it,
mhm.
and do a little shoutcasting." I think and but I think that with the community focus, I'm not sure that they would say no to me. I think that they've got their own production and everything, and they do, and they get enough viewers. I'm not going to be stealing anybody, maybe a couple tens of people if
Yeah.
those people come in, right? But like I think I would have had some success, but I didn't get anything set up in time, and there seemed to be like that kind of a barrier there. So maybe
Right.
next year we'll get something set up. We'll probably have more of a video production, like by next year on YouTube and such, and be able to like stream the recordings on Twitch and YouTube at the same time. So yeah, I think we'll probably be in a better position the next time the tournament comes around. Maybe the next time BlizzCon comes around. But yeah, you can find us on all of our socials at Last Attempt Pod, so username on all of those. The Discord link is always in the description. So along with all of our normal socials, we also have Twitch. Of course, I haven't streamed on that yet, but we're going to be getting things set up, and that's the one you want to follow to see when we're going to start doing our live broadcasts of like recording the show. And we've been pretty consistent. We're starting to do them on Saturdays, just about 4 PST, and so that'll probably be around in the range of where we like decide or settle on. So yeah, keep everything. Go over there, follow those socials. I try to post on Twitter and Instagram, post our episode art on both of those and such, and trying to give a little news post pointing towards the podcast. But yeah, we hope to see you guys there. Love anybody who comes in the Discord, anybody who's like found their way to us or on any of our socials. We really appreciate you guys, and especially if you've shared this with your friends. Absolutely appreciate you the most. You and your friends that have come in. So very wonderful to have you all here and still listening to us. We appreciate it, and awesome to have you here, Templar. Always here, very consistently. Always appreciate you being here with us.
Sure, man.
Okay, and where can these guys find you? You want to give that personal plug of yours?
Sure. You can find me at thehumandistraction.com, all one word, and that'll take you straight to my Twitch page, and that's where I stream our raids Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 9:30 p.m. PST to 11:30 PST.
Awesome. And if I ever decide to stream, you guys will find me at twitch.tv/squirrelthug_. And yeah, still working towards that. But I do have aspirational dreams to stream. I want to put some cool stuff on my walls before I do that. I feel like I have a huge mirror in here. I think the mirror is gonna go up so that like in the camera view you can see my setup, right? And I got a few guitars that I inherited from my brother. Like, and he's the kind of person that spends a lot of money on things. I am not, so I'm gonna take advantage of that I inherited those, and I'm gonna hang them up on my walls.
Nice.
So I have something nice on my walls, and I barely know how to play guitar. I'm not that good at it, but having some really expensive swag on your stuff is really nice. People appreciate it.
Totally.
So yeah, those are my aspirational dreams for getting things set up in here so it looks nice before I start streaming. But yeah, I'm gonna have to get it together at some point, anyways, because at some point we are gonna be streaming on Twitch and recording our episodes there. I think that'll be really cool, especially it's gonna get us a lot more numbers on YouTube. When people can watch us instead of just listen on there. Which for all
Hmm.
you people listening on YouTube, we appreciate you, love that, because there are a few of you guys on there that are consistently listening to our show.
Plus, on YouTube, it's a lot easier to share clips or any of the parts of the show that you want to share with your friends.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of cool stuff like that. It's a lot more, a lot friendlier to that situation. But yeah. So with that, we are gonna sign off, and thanks for being here. See ya.
Laters.